Okay. All right, we'll begin streaming. And we're going to get all the different platforms going here. So I think we are live on YouTube. There we go. And we're also going to go up on Amazon now. And tonight's topic, let me just get this camera adjusted a little bit here. Tonight's topic is going to be about Plex, because I figured I would shoot my Plex video this evening. And in addition to that, during the Amazon stream, which will begin at 8, we'll do a little Plex overview, which I think might be fun for folks. And I'm going to just see if this phone is charged, because I'd like to have a little phone to show people some stuff too. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do. So we got about 13 minutes before the Amazon thing kicks on. So we're going to just get set up here. And we got a bunch of people popping in. So Funster Productions, Recipe Bob, Brooklyn Cord Cutters is here. B. Tabalba, Servesh, Stephen. And Servesh is from India. So we got most of the world covered. We usually have a good amount of people coming into these streams at night from all over the place. I'll move my old phone here out of the way. I got to do another purge of this office I'm in. So yeah, so we're going to do kind of like an overview of Plex first. And then, so that's like the first half hour. And then we're going to do kind of a longer or more technical stuff involving HEVC transcoding, which I know is a topic that I think a lot of you might be interested in. So we're going to have some fun stuff to do this evening. And this will be another one of the videos that I'll put on, that I'll have on the main channel later. And let me just get my other camera going here. All right. And who else is popping in here? So we've got Gildas Lefort, I'm assuming from France, Stephen from Pennsylvania, Daniel from New York City, not far from me, Andrew Whitelaw, Jason Watkins, first-time viewer, long-time viewer, first-time live. Welcome, you made it. I'm doing a lot of these lately. Guy Henley followed my VPN server setup for the Raspberry Pi, and it worked great. Awesome. I'm glad that's a really cool solution, and it's very easy to get set up, which I like a lot. Londog is here. Great name. Funster Productions says, really should get a Synology. Yeah, I have one, and I have another one right here. And actually, what'll be interesting tonight when we talk about the, let me just turn this thing off here. What's interesting about all of this stuff is that what you will find when we do the transcoding discussion, or what we will all find together, is that it will behave a little differently depending on the chip that is installed on it. So I thought that was interesting. You'll hear more about that as we go. So I just want to get a phone in here, because we're going to kind of talk about what Plex is all about and all the different things you can do with it. And then I've got it also, I think, let me check my other input here. Yeah, I just got to add one thing to this. Add movies. Just want to add this to the into sidebar, and I'm going to add music, and we're going to pin that to the sidebar too. Okay, there we go. So we got a lot of ground to cover tonight. Oops, hit the wrong button here. Let's go back to Plex. I'm just getting my Fire TV going here. I figured if we're going to be on Amazon, may as well use the Fire TV to demo some stuff. So, all right, so we're good to go there. And let's take a look. Yes, I got my movies on here, and yeah, we're good to go. I'm going to do one quick thing here, and then we'll get started. So we got about 10 minutes here before everything kicks on. So bear with me, folks, for 1 second. I just got to make one quick addition to the thing here that I'm playing with. And then we will be ready to go. All right, so how's everybody doing tonight? We got folks, Eric Hubbard is from Minnesota. Servesh just bought a MyCloud 16 gig. Day and Night is from Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, I think this analogy, most of the NASs will do well. What you're going to see tonight is depending on the age of your device, you might have some issues. So be on the lookout for that. What I've got, so we're going to have two different NASs we're going to talk about tonight. We've got my PR2100 that's in the closet over there. And that one is going to do one thing differently than the 218 Plus I have here. So just be advised. And again, I'm just setting up some stuff here, so give me 1 second and we'll be ready to go, I think. All right, let's drop this in here, and we're going to do that to this. And I'm going to go back to this one here, and we're going to go, I got 1 million Plex servers running right now, so everything is like really confusing. So we're going to be ready to go in 1 second here once I just check one other thing. Okay. All right, I think we're good now. Okay, so. All right, so we got a few minutes here before we start, so I'll take some questions. So Andrew Whitelaw is wondering, would a Synology DS218 Plus be a good Plex server for in-house? Yeah, I think it would be, actually. And you'll see why in a few minutes, because this one has a slightly newer processor than the other one that I have. So it is probably going to be the better of the two, especially if you have a lot of 4K HEVC stuff. And what's funny is I was getting all this stuff put together. I learned a few things about what each of these devices are capable of. So this has been actually a really fun little project here to get this going. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a second. I'm just going to pull up there is a great Wikipedia page that has an awesome chart. So let me show you this chart here. And what I found here is that my Synology NAS, and we'll talk about this when we get into the HEVC stuff in a little bit, but my Synology NAS has, I believe, an Apollo Lake processor, the 218 Plus. And if you look at HEVC here, you'll see that my Braswell can decode HEVC, but not 10-bit HEVC that you'll find on a Blu-ray. So what that means is that you will not get hardware decoding of the 4K Blu-ray unless you have an Apollo Lake or newer chip inside of your NAS. And that will also impact you if you have, for example, a Skylake processor in your computer. So that'll be one of the things we'll talk about in the video we're going to do on Synology transcoding. So, and that video is going to be posted. So we're actually going to shoot the video tonight. Cameron D is joining us on the Amazon chat from Toronto, Canada. Welcome. Also not too far from me, not too far of a plane ride away. We got a bunch of other folks who have popped in. I'm probably missing a bunch of people here. BLW is from Richmond, Virginia. Joe is from Fort Lauderdale. Hopefully it's warmer there now. It was getting a little chilly down there. Ridbrush wants to build a NAS. And I thought about building one, but you know what? It's so much easier just to buy one that works. So that's what I ended up doing. So I got the 218 Plus here. Brooklyn Cord Cutters has the PR4100 and the EX4100. Servesh wants to know, can we direct stream over the internet to a client app? I tried it, but it's not working. I think you should be able to force that on most clients. but you need a lot of bandwidth to make that work, especially if it's a large file. Jeremy built his Plex server on a Dell PowerEdge server with a Synology R816 rack station. That's a monster. That's a big one, bigger than mine. Eric Bazinga's here. T-Dub is wondering, is it worth buying a used NAS? I think so. Just make sure you get the right processor. When we get into the transcoding discussion in a little bit, that's going to be a really important discussion to have, because that is something that you're going to want, the right processor. So we will be discussing that in a little bit. Eric Bazinga wants to know if I like Doctor Who. No, I never got into Doctor Who. So I'm mostly a spaceship guy. I should probably check it out. I know they've had some new versions of it lately. So Rick Vestudo is here. Vestudo. Chris Vest, have you seen any issues with Plex and live DVR in regards to jumping to the beginning of recording? It's in progress. You know, I am not recording my stuff with the Plex DVR. I'm using, actually it reminds me, I got to add one other thing to my list here. I'm using the HD Home Run DVR and I'm pointing the Plex server at that. And I know some people have been having some issues, which I need to dive into a little bit here. So I will try to start compiling some of that stuff, so we may be able to send some notes to the Plex team. Akuru-san is here. X-Prox is here from Alabama. And Rick is saying the NAS rocks. It sure does, especially for power. And Recipe Bob says the 218 Plus is good at transcoding. Yeah, you'll see in a minute it actually is going to do better with some of the HEVC stuff now too. All right, William Wilkinson wants to know if an i5 processor will work with Plex. It will, depending on which one it is. And you got to figure out what processor family it is. And then you'll have a better idea of that. And we're going to get, Jason, your questions we will answer in a little bit. About a half hour into the stream tonight, when we start the HEVC component, we will most certainly be addressing all the HEVC stuff. Cameron wants to know if I connected my laptop with the RTX 2080 to my TV yet. Not yet, but that's on the list of things that I want to do. All right, so we're going to get started here in about a minute with the first leg of this two-parter tonight. So what we're going to do, two people from Alabama here, by the way. So what we're going to be doing is we're live streaming this to Amazon. And actually, that reminds me, I need to get the right link over to YouTube so you all can see the Amazon feed as well. So tonight, what we're going to be looking at, and I'm going to wait just a second here for the 8 o'clock hour to roll around so we get onto the Amazon homepage, because we're going to get a bunch of new viewers right when it goes live on the Amazon homepage. So bear with me for 1 second, folks. I just need to update the link. There it is, for Amazon on there. So, all right, so it is now 8 p.m. And if you are just joining us, let me pull up some things that we're talking about tonight. So tonight, we are looking, let me get the right thing up on screen here for you. We are looking at something called Plex. And what Plex is a media serving application that allows you to look at your own media on just about any device that you have with a screen. And it's gotten a little bit more advanced as well. And we're going to be talking about some of the other things that you can do with Plex. And I should mention at the outset here that for those of you watching on Amazon, that Plex is a sponsor on my YouTube channel. And what we'll be doing in a few minutes, probably about a half an hour, is we're going to record a sponsored video that I do for them once a month. But they are not monitoring this, or none of the content that you're seeing here is something that they have had a role in. It's all just coming from me here. So, and what we're going to be doing tonight is, first of all, exploring what Plex is all about and what you can do with it. And then after that, we're going to look at a more advanced topic, which is hardware transcoding, which is something that Plex is quite good at for watching media outside of your home. And I'm just sending up the link right now for all of you. So if you want to refresh your page, you'll find the link if you want to monitor this on Amazon as well. And it looks like Cleve is in from, I'm not sure where he's from, but he's on there. So hi there. So welcome to the stream on Amazon. All right, so let me get started here first with what Plex is. And what I'm going to do is show you two different things. So I have Plex running here inside of a web browser. And for example, if I wanted to watch Ace Ventura Pet Detective, let me just turn off the volume here. I can go ahead and play this movie from my server in the other room. Now, the way Plex has worked for many years is that you have a server of some kind. It can be a computer that you can store your media on, or in my case, I use these network-attached storage devices. And what you can do with Plex is take all of the media that you have under your direct control. I've had to pick this scene when he's doing that. That you have direct control over. In other words, your Blu-ray movies, your DVDs, your music CDs. You can take the data off of those discs and store them on a server like this or on a computer. And then if you install the Plex software, which is free, you can watch that content on a computer. You can watch it, let me get into my phone here. You can watch it on a phone. Here's the phone interface. You can go to most of the major smart TVs and streaming boxes, and I can go in here and just watch it on my Fire TV, for example. Or you can just watch it on anything else that you can get access to. And it's amazing. They have clients for just about every major device out there, and it's really quite versatile. So it's a really great platform. I've been using it for a number of years. I have a lot of my media stored on there. And I thought what I would do briefly here is just kind of show you, let me see if I can get my overhead view here, some of the things you could do, especially when you're on the road with it. So for example, you saw we were just playing Ace Ventura Pet Detective, and I don't want to do that. Let me go back here real quick. So I could go back into Ace Ventura Pet Detective here on my phone and just play it back right where I left off. And what it's doing here is right now just kind of determining what it needs to do to the video to play it on my device. And what's really neat about Plex is that it will make the video smaller. So if I happen to take this phone on the road with me, Plex will in real time transcode the video and make a larger file smaller that I can take with me. Another cool thing that it has is the ability to have all of your music centered on your devices. So one of the things that I have done, let me pull up my music here, is I've started to go back through all of my CDs that I have, and I'm taking those CDs and ripping them to my server because the streaming services out there are great, but they compress the audio. So what I'm finding with Plex is that if I can take those CDs in FLAC format, which is a lossless audio format, I have CD quality audio as good as the original disc that I have now on my phone, and I can take it and put it on my computer. I can put it on my TV boxes, pretty much anything that I can do with my my music I can take with me. And the best way to describe this is as a cloud service that you have control over, and you have unlimited storage because you're storing everything locally on your own devices there, and that is really a convenient way to get your media going. And if you have a lot of media, you have a lot of DVDs, you got a lot of that kind of stuff, this works really, really well for that. And again, you can start for free with it. And then if you decide there's some features that you might want, you can then go to their Plex Pass add-on, which will give you some more advanced features. But I think for a lot of folks, you could probably get by on the free side. I do want to take a minute and just thank Rick Vestudo, who made a very generous contribution to the channel on YouTube. That got you up to gold level, so thank you very much for that. And he has a question about the Synology devices, and I'm going to get to those questions in a little bit when we talk about transcoding in our more advanced segment that we'll be doing in a little bit. So I wanted to get kind of the overview here of what Plex is. So for the longest time, this is what Plex has been. It's been a way to organize all of your media on a server, play that media back on anything that you own, no matter where you are in the world. And then they've been rolling in additional features. So for example, you can get this to work with over-the-air television. So you can have it tune live TV, and you can watch that on your home devices, or if you're away from home, you can watch your home TV away from home without any additional hardware. You do need to get a network TV tuner. The HD home run tuners are great for this. It works with those. I think, let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. I think I might have, yeah, here we go, live TV and DVR. And I haven't looked at this recently, but I think I have a guide. Yeah, so here's my current TV programming that I have available to me, and I can just go ahead, for example, and just tune to my local Ion TV channel. And what this is going to do is activate my network TV tuner, and then the video should start up here in a second and start playing. And I've got time shifting, I can record stuff, I can watch things later. So it's a full live TV and DVR system that is built right into Plex, and it works pretty well for the most part. And what's nice about this too is that if you're using a different type of DVR, you can point Plex at its recordings and just pull them all up later. So it's really quite convenient that way. Another thing that I like about Plex is that it will give you a lot of metadata about your media. So this is Star Wars: The Last Jedi that I took off of the DVD that I have. And as you can see here, it will give me all the stars of the movie. I get trailers. I get all the information here. There's some extras that it has available online that I can watch. And it's really nice to have all of my own media look as nice as this. I've done a lot of videos on Plex. So if you check out my YouTube channel, I've got probably several dozen hours of content on all the different ways you can use it. And it's very, very feature rich. So we're not going to do a total deep dive tonight, but hopefully this gives you a kind of a sense of it. So again, the process here is you take your media on CD, DVD, and Blu-ray, and you put it on a server, and then Plex organizes it for you so you can watch it on any device you have with a screen. And it's really convenient for those of us who have large physical media collections to get all this stuff kind of centralized. Now, they've done some other things recently that don't require the server. So if you just wanted to kind of get a feel for what Plex is about, you can install it now without a server. And that is a really super convenient thing to do because you can get a feel for how it works just by installing the app or the web browser here and get into it and start playing around with it. So they've got a couple of things now that I think are really fun to play with. The first is their web shows, and my show's on here too. And these are a lot of the shows that you've probably watched on YouTube and other places. And there's no algorithm here, so if one of your favorite creators is on the Plex web shows, it will serve you everything that they produce. And it will show up in my shows here. And as you can see, like if I wanted to get everything from my channel, as we upload things, every video is here and you can start watching it. So it's pretty cool. Then of course it's got some other related stuff. And this is great because oftentimes people tell me, hey, you know, your stuff on YouTube is not showing up and I can't find anything. Another thing they have is news. And what I like about news is that it gives you national and international headlines from major TV networks, but it also will aggregate local news from your local affiliates. So here I'm in Connecticut, so I have Hartford, New Haven area TV. So it's got that, pretty good stuff. Another thing they have is a great podcasting client. And by the way, this syncs up with all of the devices that you're using. So if you start a podcast on your phone and then you get home to your Fire TV or whatever, it will pick it up where you left off. And I think the podcast client here is really good. So you can see we've got my podcast on here, which is my weekly wrap-up thing. I got to work on my thumbnails a little bit. But I could start playing it here and then play it later somewhere else, right where I left off. It does bookmarking and everything else. And you'll see the interface is very consistent throughout. Another thing they just launched is something called Movies and TV. And this is a advertising-supported free TV and video service. This is called AVOD, A-V-O-D for short. And this is what you basically use for watching a lot of the content that they have licensed for free. And they've got a lot of stuff on here. And they actually have some things that are only on Plex for a limited time. So they have some exclusives. So it looks like right now Terminator's exclusive, Tucker, the man in his dream about the car. And again, you just click on one of these movies and watch them, and it will sync up between all of your devices. And you can also configure it so if you're watching your own media, you can get some recommendations from Plex as to other things you might want to watch. This is available internationally, but the content will vary based on where you are. They've got a lot of great music content, so it's fun just to kind of browse through all this. And again, you can watch this on your phone, you can watch it on your TV. So for example, if we go back to, let me just get my Fire TV up here real quick, and I will select that on the Fire TV, and if we go to that, you'll see it pulls it up in a very similar way. And I was watching, when we were doing a video on Plex a little bit earlier, we were watching Earth Final Conflict, and it's remembered where I left off on that. And again, on the Fire TV, pretty much the same thing you saw on the web. And if I watch it here, it will pick up somewhere else. So it is pretty cool. Another thing that I like about Plex is that they have integration with Tidal, which is a subscription music service. And what's nice about Tidal is that they have, I don't want to say it's completely lossless audio, but they have CD quality master level audio available. And it sounds great. And then you can integrate Tidal with your own music library. So I have somewhere on here a playlist of some of the Dave Matthews Band studio albums. I don't have all of them, but I have about 3 or 4 of them. And then I have Tidal filling in what I don't have. And when I'm in the car, or if I'm just playing music off of headphones, I've got the whole library. And because Tidal is CD quality, it sounds the same as my lossless audio that I've ripped. And it really sounds great. So I did see a question on the chat about where do you get your media from. So that's a whole nother tutorial video. But there are apps out there that you can use to get your media from disc to digital. So Handbrake is good for DVDs, Make MKV is good for Blu-rays, and then you can get all that stuff again just put on here. I did a video also on the YouTube channel about the best way to rip audio CDs. There's some great software out there to make it really seamless and easy, and then you can rip it to full lossless quality music and get the exact one-to-one audio quality of that CD that you have. And that's one thing people don't realize, is that the CD you bought 25 years ago sounds better than the streaming service you're using now, with the exception maybe of Tidal. So it's good stuff. So that is what I like about Plex, is that it's just really cool to be able to see your own media organized like this and very quickly pull it up. And one of the magical things that Plex does, if you have the right hardware, is that it can take advantage of what's on Intel processors to dramatically speed up the process of watching media remotely. So one of the things that we'll be looking at in a few minutes is this network attached storage device. This is a Synology DS218 Plus, and it has an Intel processor inside. And what I like about hosting a Plex server on this versus a computer is that this consumes a lot less power. So you can leave it on all the time and it won't consume as much as a desktop PC might be consuming. And what's nice about this particular model is that, again, it has the Intel processor and it can do the real-time hardware transcoding. And what that means is that, let's say I'm in Connecticut right now. Let's say I take a trip to California and I want to watch something that my DVR recorded. If it recorded it off the air, it's a huge MPEG-2 file that is not really possible to stream to myself over the internet, given that I might be watching it on my phone off of an LTE connection, or I might be in some lousy hotel Wi-Fi. You got to be able to take that video and crunch it down into something that is more digestible for that bandwidth. And one of the things that the hardware transcoding can do is do just that, and it does it almost not quite instantaneously, but within 5 or 10 seconds of starting the film or the TV show or whatever, it's going to start playing even if you're across the country. And you have to have the right hardware to do that. And we've done a whole series on hardware transcoding on my YouTube channel, so I would definitely check that out to get a better sense as to what you might need for that. But at the moment, I would say there are two that I would recommend. The Synology here is one I would recommend probably primarily. And the reason is that this one has a slightly newer processor than some of the other ones out there. And it will transcode 4K HEVC video in addition to some of the other stuff that you might be throwing at it. And it's not too expensive. It's about $300, but you do have to add storage to it. You have to buy 2 hard drives to put inside of it. So the cost will be a bit more than that. Now, to do the hardware transcoding, though, you have to have a Plex Pass subscription. And you can do that monthly, annually, or a lifetime pass. I think the lifetime is like $150 or something. And they often have a special running where you can get a better deal on it. And the other one that I recommend is, actually there's 2 others that I recommend. The other NAS device is the WD MyCloud PR2100. I'm actually using that as my primary Plex server at the moment. That one's in my equipment closet over there. And what's nice about the WD is that you'll get the hardware transcoding without the need for a Plex Pass. So that comes with the device. It doesn't come with the Synology. So on the Synology, you got to buy the Plex Pass. On the WD, it's part of the deal. So that's the choice there. The other thing about the WDs is that they include the storage. So if you buy the one I'm looking at here for about $540, that one will have everything ready to go out of the box. You plug it in, configure it a little bit with users and shares and stuff, and then you're off and running. It's pretty simple to get it going. The Synologies have more features, better software. So if you want to do more than just serve media, that is something you can do with these 218 pluses. So, you know, the Synology is great, WD is great, it's a matter of what you need, and I've done a lot of content on all of this. So I will be sure to direct you to my stuff there. Cookie Monster said, if this is all in one take, he's good. Yeah, I don't script anything. I'm just rambling. So hopefully it's all making sense to everybody. My big concern, because I know the folks on the YouTube channel who follow me, we do a lot of this content, so I know you all know what I'm talking about. So I'm hoping the folks watching on Amazon tonight are aware of or understanding what I'm getting at here. Because it's important to, Plex is hard to explain because it's kind of nebulous and it does a lot of stuff. It has so many features that I have been doing content for Plex now for 3.5, 4 years, at least once a month, and I haven't run out of things to talk about. So that gives you an idea as to how much stuff is out there. One other thing to consider on the Plex server side, and I'm going to select it now on the Amazon page here. So by the way, if you're watching on YouTube and you click over to the Amazon stream, you'll be able to see the product listing of all the things I'm talking about, so you can kind of poke around and do some research on it. The NVIDIA Shield Pro, and I just don't have room on my table to show all this stuff right now, but if you go onto the link, you can see what it looks like. The NVIDIA Shield TV Pro, which is a TV box similar to a Roku or an Amazon Fire TV or an Apple TV. It's its own animal. It's running Android TV. It's a very powerful device. It has the same chip as the Nintendo Switch has, and it's very good at video transcoding. And as such, the NVIDIA Shield TV Pro, which costs about $200, can also be a Plex server. And in a few minutes, we're going to look at the performance of the WD. We're going to look at the performance of the Synology here, and we're also going to check out the performance of the NVIDIA Shield as Plex servers doing this transcoding. It's pretty remarkable how good all this stuff is working these days. The Shield is about $200. I believe it will do the hardware transcoding without the Plex Pass purchase also. So if you're looking for a transcoding Plex server, the Shield is the least expensive. But I caution people about the Shield because it's doing other things for you and its memory is rather limited. So it has 3 gigs of RAM. It has only 16 gigs of storage. So of course you're going to need to plug in external storage into the Shield for it to have what it needs to serve the media. And I did a video recently about how to set up a Shield device as a server because there is a little bit of nuance to it. But once you get it up and running, it's going to work great for you. The biggest caution here is that you need to make sure you get the Shield Pro if you're buying the new Shield, because they have a shield that looks like a tube, and the tube shield doesn't support the Plex server, but the Pro version does. So make sure you don't buy the tube, because the tube can't do the server. If you buy an older shield from like 2015 or 2017, those all do it, Pro or not. So the only one that doesn't work that's an NVIDIA shield is the 2019 tube. So that is the basic Plex explanation, and hopefully that all made sense to you. And let me jump back into the chat here and handle a couple of questions. So what we're going to do next here is transition to a more advanced topic, which is that hardware transcoding topic. And what we'll be doing tonight is, again, looking at HEVC transcoding. That stands for the High Efficiency Video Codec, and that is the codec that 4K Blu-rays are encoded with, and it requires a beefier processor to handle properly. And some things have it and some things don't. And we're going to take a look at the do's and the don'ts here as we go. All right, so let me just go back through the chat here on YouTube. We have an Amazon customer from Hesperia, California. Welcome. We have, let's see, William Wilkinson is here. Big Raider Mondo wants to use the TV streaming service with Plex. And that's the one thing that I definitely can see frustrating people, is the fact that not every, so Plex needs unencrypted media to work. So if, for example, if you're recording things over the air with the HD home run like I use, that gives you unencrypted media, point Plex at it, done. But if you have a service like a streaming service or something that's encrypting things, that's going to be a problem. So it's really designed for media that you have direct control over and you own. That's often the best way to do it. Henry is here from Texas. Fred's been using the Plex offline mode. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So if you have a Plex Pass subscription, you can download media to your phone before you get on a plane, and it will play everything locally from the phone, just like you would download from Netflix or Amazon Prime. It's really good. Kareem Mifflin is here. Josh S. is here. Let's see who else we've gotten here. Yeah, sometimes we have audio sync problems, and the problem is that I can't stop the stream now because it's going to knock us off of Amazon. So if I think the Amazon stream might be doing okay. I've also found some nights that the audio sync is there's an issue with the different distribution sites that YouTube is using. So let me know if on Amazon if people are having audio sync problems. All right, so let's see what we've got here. We have, just looking through the questions here. ChemGuy72 just started his Plex server yesterday with over 300 movies and shows on it so far. Yeah, if you've got a collection of stuff, it's great for this because it just organizes it all really quickly. It looks like I'm having sync problems in both places. All right, you know what I'm going to do, folks? I'm going to just see if I can recycle the stream real quick. Hopefully it works. Okay, I just did a little break, and hopefully that will not knock me off of Amazon here. So let's see if it comes back, and hopefully it will. I think we're okay because I just stopped briefly and then restarted, so that should fix the sync problems. Okay, there we go. I think we're better. All right. This happens, some nights it happens, other nights it doesn't, so it looks like we're okay now. All right, so let me see what other questions we've got here. And Big Raider Mondo also brings up the fact that you can share your Plex server with other people. So you could have, if you have family members on the other side of the country, you can share content with them. It's just going to use your internet upstream, of course, so you're going to be limited there. It looks like Charlie says it's better on Amazon also, so we fixed that problem. If you do it right, you can get OTA channels on IPTV. Yeah, so there's different ways. If you can get it decrypted, you are good to go. Okay, let us look at some of this stuff here. So I'm going to stick a few more questions. All right. I think we're okay. It looks like I'm getting a little bit of jumpiness on YouTube. I'm just watching the stream as it comes back to me. So some nights just don't work all that great. Josh S. is asking where the Amazon stream is. If you go down into the video description here on YouTube and click over, there's an Amazon link that'll take you to the Amazon live stream. So, and what we're going to be doing tonight, everybody, is I'm going to be recording my monthly Plex videos. You're going to kind of watch me do my thing. And we're going to talk tonight almost entirely about HEVC video and transcoding of it. And what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to get a couple things set up. So I'm going to be pinning a couple of my servers. So I have a bunch of servers set up because I was experimenting earlier in the day here. So I have a, you probably can't see this. Let me zoom in. So I have, oh, you can see that way. There we go. So I have my main server, which is my PR2100. And then I've got some other ones, my 218 Plus, which is this one right here, and then we have the NVIDIA Shield, which is hosting a movie as well, because I wanted to show you what I've learned about transcoding and HEVC videos. And before we jump into that, let me get Rick's question here in now. I have my Pellegrino, it's my hydration for this evening, so let me just take a sip real quick. Ah, much better. Okay, so Rick is wondering, he wants to get the Synology 419 Slim, but worried that I can get the same results from the 718 Plus for a better price. Is the 419 Plus a future-proof option? All right, so let me take a look at something real quick here for him. And this is why this screen, this page here on Wikipedia is important. If you do a Google search for Intel Quick Sync video and HEVC, you'll find your way to this. And I will put this link into the video description in a minute. Hey, let me pull it up on screen here so you can see it a little better. So the chip that the device has is going to be important for this. So let's look up the 419 Plus specs first from Synology. Oops, let's type in Synology here. I think it's the 419 Slim. That's right. So let's look up the 419 Slim. And we'll go over to specs here because we got to see what the processor is. So here's the problem you're going to have with the Slim. Look at the CPU. The 419 Slim does not have an Intel processor. This is an ARM processor. So if you choose this, you can run a Plex server in your house and you can serve that Plex media in your home. If you're not transcoding it, everything's fine. But if you want to watch it on your mobile phone when you're not at home, or perhaps watch it on a device that's not compatible with one particular type of media, you're not going to get any transcoding done with this. It's going to just seize up on you. And it's a nice, attractive unit, but it's going to create some problems for you. So now if we look at the 718 Plus from Synology, let's take a look at the specs on that one. So we'll go to specs here. And this one has the Celeron J3455. And what you're also going to want to do here, and this is actually helpful for the video because we're going to be jumping into this in a little bit more detail here. If we jump over to the Intel Celeron processor information page, we can see that this is based on Apollo Lake. Okay? Now let's go back to our Wikipedia page and take a look at Apollo Lake. And what it says here is that Apollo Lake can decode and encode HEVC, which is going to be good for down the road. And it can also decode HEVC 10-bit, which is likely what you'll encounter when working with 4K HEVC video. So that one, the 718 Plus, is the better of the two if you were looking to run a Plex server and needing that transcoding. Because again, that 418 Slim or 419 Slim doesn't have the right chip for transcoding. So hopefully that answers the question, because you got to be really careful. You can spend a lot of money on one of these things and not have it work at all. So that's really critical. Now, Synology does have another, let me find it real quick. They do have another device in the lineup. Let's go over to, they have so many products. Personal and home user. So they do have the 620 Slim, which I reviewed recently. It's a 6-bay, smaller NAS. It's not that big. In fact, I still have it over there if you want to see what it looks like. And you can find it on Amazon, of course. Oops. So it looks like this. So it's super tiny. It's got a fan on it and stuff, so it'll make a little bit of noise. But you can put 6 SSDs or 3.5-inch notebook hard or 2.5-inch notebook hard drives in here, and it's pretty cool for that. And this one has that J3355 processor. So the 3455 is a quad-core chip. And if we look up the J3355, and I'm pretty sure that my 218 Plus has the same chip. So this is a quad-core chip. So a few less cores. And what I found in some of my prior work on this topic is that you'll get more transcoding sessions with more cores. Something just fell down over there. We're okay. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. All right, so let me do a couple of disclaimers here because we're at the halfway point in the video. First of all, Plex is a sponsor on my YouTube channel. They are not sponsoring the stream, but we're going to be recording a sponsored video for them that will be on my channel in a little bit. So just be aware of that. Also in the video, we're going to be talking about the Synology NAS here, and we're also going to be talking about a WD NAS device. Both WD and Synology are past sponsors on my channel, but they're not sponsoring this stream or the video. And we'll be talking about the NVIDIA Shield. The one we're using tonight, I bought with my own funds. So just want to get those disclaimers out there, and we'll just be reminding you of those as we work our way through here. So that is that. And I'm not sure if the audio delay has returned again. Project Hope says there's a bit of a delay. It might just be a YouTube problem tonight because I've already cycled the stream once. I would maybe refresh your browser and see if that fixes it, or head over to the Amazon link and see if that does any better. All right, so let's get going on the Synology, on the Plex video here. And we're going to talk about HEVC transcoding and what I have learned over the past couple of months here. Okay, so everyone says it's fine, which is good. And we'll go there. And it looks like Josh on Amazon says everything is looking good too. Yeah, I'm watching my stream on my computer, and it looks like there's like a little bit of a frame stutter every once in a while. It's weird. Some nights it just works fine, and other nights it's just like problematic. So we will keep an eye on it. Okay, so we're going to start my recording session. And if you're watching on Amazon, you might be wondering, what is he doing? So we're kind of doing 2 birds with 1 stone tonight. I can do a video and do a stream all at the same time. So Anthony is watching on his TV. Voice sync is good in Ontario, Canada. California or Canada? CA, I'm guessing California. Okay, ChemGuy72. Okay, we're going to begin my recording session in 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Actually, you know what? I want to get my Plex screen up here. Let's have like a library of movies or something here. So we'll just do go to camera 2 and just do a little zoom in here. Is this cool though? You get like a really nice interface to everything. And what's been great about this, by the way, what I love about Plex as a parent is that my daughters watch some of this stuff over and over again, and they're always in different rooms. And sometimes you just got to put some, like today, they had a big Groundhog Day parade in my town, and the kids were just like, they came home exhausted because they were, out in this exciting thing. They were running around, and they just came back just like, when they get overloaded and everything, they're just miserable. So one kid wanted to watch Paw Patrol. The other one wanted to watch something else. So I've got a couple of Paw Patrol DVDs that I bought and put on my Plex server. So on one TV, I could dial up Paw Patrol, and then on the other kid's iPad, I could put the other show on that she was watching, some leapfrog thing. So it's really convenient for that kind of stuff. And that's what I love about it, is just like wherever we are, no matter where we are in the house or in the country, all my media is accessible to me, and that's valuable, especially as a parent. By the way, if you have kids, these Leapfrog, so I bought these on a DVD. These Leapfrog movies here are great. I mean, really great. My 6-year-old learned like so much about letters and numbers and the sounds they make from these they're just wonderful. And her favorite stuffed animal is Violet. So Violet and Scout here are the two main characters in the Leapfrog thing there. So there you go, little parenting tip for you. Okay, so let me begin here. 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we are back once again with our sponsored monthly video from Plex. And this month we're going to continue a discussion we had last month about the NVIDIA Shield running as a Plex server. A lot of you are wondering about HEVC transcoding, and we're going to be exploring that topic with the NVIDIA Shield tonight, but also with a NAS device here, the Synology 218 Plus, and we'll be looking at my WD MyCloud PR2100 because I learned a lot about HEVC transcoding as I was researching this topic, and we've actually got a lot to talk about here. Now, the prerequisite for watching this video is to go back and look at a few of my other hardware transcoding videos so you can get the context of what this is all about, especially as it relates to running a Plex server, because we're going to assume you've watched those already or understand the concepts as we explore this particular subject related to hardware transcoding. Now, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that this is a paid sponsorship from Plex. However, they are not reviewing or approving what you're about to see before it was uploaded, and all the opinions you're about to hear are my own. So let's get into it now and take a look at HEVC transcoding starting on my WD MyCloud NAS. And I think I also need to remind viewers that WD and Synology are past sponsors, so I'll need to do that in a minute. All right. So let me just get that recording on here. Now, why is it not showing up? There it is. Okay, I almost got nervous for a second. I just had a good take. What I've also found as I'm doing my video recording, that I do better when you're all watching me for some reason. So I have 195 people on YouTube watching, and probably, you know, who knows how many on Amazon right now, because we're on the homepage. And it actually makes it easier for me because, for whatever reason, I feel like I'm talking to you and not just talking to the camera, so I'm able to get my words out better. So, all right, so I'm not going to play that one back right this second, but what I am going to do is get this queued up, because this was really interesting to me, how this stuff ended up performing for us. So let me pick the Star Wars The Last Jedi. Let me pull it up here. And I've got two versions of The Last Jedi. I have the Blu-ray and I have the 4K Blu-ray. So here is, and there's going to be some really important information here. And I think what I want to do, though, you know what, we're going to start here and then we'll go to the chart. That's how we're going to do it. That's how we're going to do it. Okay. So TW, I would refresh your browser. Some people are having sync issues and others are not. So I'm not sure what's going on. This happened a few nights ago, and it was like YouTube's distribution network was messing things up. But if you go on Amazon, it should be fine. All right. So let me start off here because what I'm going to do is start the film. And what you're going to notice with this is a couple of things. The first is that it's going to take a long time for it to start. But the other thing that we're going to see here is the fact that the activity is going to be crazy on this. So I'm going to, all right, so let me start off here because I'm going to change the, okay, so let me start on this, and I think I'm going to go off the main camera here. Okay, 3, 2, 1. So we are going to begin by playing a 4K HEVC Blu-ray movie off of my WD MyCloud device. And right now I'm going to change the encoding to 720p at 4 megabits per second. And then I'm going to go a little bit easier on the audio here and select the AC3 track. And you'll notice here that it's not starting up so quickly. In fact, it is just kind of hanging out here with that thing twirling. And what was interesting in the course of playing around with this film is that it is not decoding the movie in hardware, even though the WD My Cloud is capable of playing back most of... I just messed that up. So let me go back and start from the start here. You see how it's not starting yet? And there's a good reason for this, and I'll show you in a second. All right. Just trying to prevent copyright concerns here. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we're going to start off here by playing a movie from my WD My Cloud NAS that's in my server room next door. And right now what I'm doing here is playing the movie back at 4 megabits per second at 720p. And I selected the AC3 option. But this is the 4K Blu-ray version of the film. And you can see it's having a hard time playing back here. It's really stuttering and not really playing back all that efficiently. And the My Cloud that I'm using does support hardware transcoding. However, the My Cloud doesn't support hardware decoding of 10-bit HEVC files like the one I'm trying to play back right now. So you can see we're getting buffering here in my status indicator. And if we zoom out here and take a look at the CPU, you can see the CPU here is running at full blast, and the Plex server is mostly responsible for what's going on here. And I'm going to probably hear from my wife in a minute because I know she's watching some TV upstairs, and undoubtedly her experience is being impacted by the amount of CPU load to decode this movie. And the reason why this is taking so long and taking so many resources to get going is because the processor on the My Cloud, again, doesn't support HEVC 10-bit decoding in hardware, which is what we need for the full hardware transcode to happen. So I'm going to pull up another page here on my computer's web browser. This comes from Wikipedia, and I'll have a link down below in the video description so you can find this. And the processor inside of the My Cloud is based on the Braswell Cherry Trail architecture. And if we look here on the chart for the QuickSync support, you'll see that HEVC video decoding is supported, but 10-bit is not supported at all, which means we can't decode the movie in hardware, even though, let me switch back to the control panel here, even though the movie was, I'm going to have to go back and fix this real quick here. So I'm going to take what I did here, and then we're going to slice in something, because I stopped the movie, and I'm going to start it again, and then we'll show how it is encoding in hardware, but not decoding in hardware, which is what you need. Okay, so let me just rename this one real quick. All right, so we'll say My Cloud Part 1 here. I'm just going to play this back just so I can make sure I'm making sense to myself. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we're going to start off here by playing a movie from my WD My Cloud NAS that's in my server room next door. And right now what I'm doing here is playing the movie back at 4 megabits per second at 720p. And I selected the AC3 option. But this is the 4K Blu-ray version of the film. And you can see it's having a hard time playing back here. It's really stuttering and not really playing back all that efficiently. And the My Cloud that I'm using does support hardware transcoding. However, the My Cloud doesn't support hardware decoding of 10-bit HEVC files like the one I'm trying to play back right now. So you can see we're getting buffering here in my status indicator. And if we zoom out here and take a look at the CPU, you can see the CPU here is running at full blast, and the Plex server is mostly responsible for what's going on here. And I'm going to probably hear from my wife in a minute because I know she's watching some TV upstairs, and undoubtedly her experience is being impacted by the amount of CPU load to decode this movie. And the reason why this is taking so long and taking so many resources to get going is because the processor on the My Cloud, again, doesn't support HEVC 10-bit decoding in hardware, which is what we need for the full hardware transcode to happen. So I'm going to pull up another page here on my computer's web browser. This comes from Wikipedia, and I'll have a link down below in the video description so you can find this. And the processor inside of the MyCloud is based on the Braswell Cherry Trail architecture. And if we look here on the chart for the quick sync support, you'll see that HEVC video decoding is supported, but 10-bit is not supported at all, which means we can't decode the movie in hardware, even though, let me switch back to the control panel here, even though the movie was, So I'm going to find that spot I can go to here. Hang on one second. Hardware, even though, let me switch back to the control panel here. Okay. One more second here. The movie in hardware, even though, let me switch back to the control panel here. Okay. So what we're going to say here is we're going to say even though okay, so that's how we're going to do it. So it's playing back now. I think I'm going to pick it up where I said, let's look at that control panel here. Let me just play this one more time. Even though the movie was not supported at all, which means we can't decode the movie in hardware, is not supported at all. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut at all. And then, because there was a good question that was asked in the chat. Okay, so we're going to cut at all because Cookie Monster had a good, I think that's, yeah, Cookie Monster had a good question about why it needs to decode and encode in hardware. And I think we can answer that right here. Not supported at all, so at all, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. And the reason we need it to decode in hardware is because right now it is, I think we got to figure out how to answer this the best way. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe this. So the question here is, what's the difference between hardware encoding and decoding? So I think I'm going to stop here and kind of cut into that at all and say how this process needs to work, because we have to take that video file, read that video data, and then convert it. So I think that's how we're going to handle that. That is what we're going to do. Okay. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. So now for you to, 3, 2, 1. So to understand how this works, what we're doing is we are reading the video file off the disk in HEVC 10-bit format, and we have to convert it to something that we can stream out. So in order to do this most efficiently, we need to use the hardware decoder to read the video, and then the hardware encoder to encode it and send it out, so we're not killing the CPU here. And these are some of the enhancements that the Intel QuickSync video provides on these devices. So let's jump back now to my computer screen, and I can show you this in a more visual way. So right now the video here is playing back, but as you can see, we're not getting the hardware transcode thing here next to the video line for what it's reading. However, it is transcoding the video in hardware to H.264 because that is supported on the chip inside of the WD MyCloud. So what we're seeing here is that, it can't decode that H.265 video, but it's able to encode it using the hardware. So let's take a look now at the Synology device that I have here on the desk, because this one is able to do both the hardware decoding and the encoding. And let's see what that does for performance. How does that work? Does that answer your question? I think that should do it. And we'll play this back here. And by the way, when you hear the echo, I have a TV in front of me, so as I'm recording my videos, I have it play back so I can, as you're seeing me do, so we can see how it all works. So this is going to be decode and encode. All right, so let's see how that plays out. You'll hear the echo, echo, echo. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. So now for you to, 3, 2, 1. So to understand how this works, what we're doing is we are reading the video file off the disk in HEVC 10-bit format, and we have to convert it to something that we can stream out. So in order to do this most efficiently, we need to use the hardware decoder to read the video, and then the hardware encoder to encode it and send it out, so we're not killing the CPU here. And these are some of the enhancements that the Intel QuickSync video provides on these devices. So let's jump back now to my computer screen, and I can show you this in a more visual way. So right now the video here is playing back, but as you can see, we're not getting the hardware transcode thing here next to the video line for what it's reading. However, it is transcoding the video in hardware to H.264 because that is supported on the chip inside of the WD MyCloud. So what we're seeing here is that, again, it can't decode that H.265 video, but it's able to encode it using the hardware. So let's take a look now at the Synology device that I have here on the desk, because this one is able to do both the hardware decoding and the encoding. And let's see what that does for performance. All right. I think I might kill the end of that, but I think it's doable. Okay, so now what we've got going on here is I am running the same film on the 218 Plus. And let me show you the difference now with what we have here. So let me zoom in here. Let's go over to the screen so you can get a better look at it. We're on video camera 5. So look at that. So now, because this chip supports the hardware decoding, we are seeing now hardware decoding and encoding, right? So this one is going to have a very different performance footprint here, as you'll see in a second. All right, so I think I ended on, okay, so I think we're just going to pick up right here. 3, 2, 1. So now we're looking at the control panel from our Synology DS218 Plus. It has a different processor inside of it that also supports hardware transcoding. And as you can see here, the 4K HEVC file is being decoded in hardware. Remember, the MyCloud didn't have that HW next to it. And it is also, did I say encoding? Let me start again. 3, 2, 1. So let's take a look now at what our 218 Plus from Synology is doing here. And as you can see, the device is decoding in hardware because we have an HW next to it. We did not see that a moment ago with the WD device. And you can see now that it is transcoding in hardware out. So we're getting both the decode and the end. Actually, I'm going to start this one more time. We're going to do, So, Chemi Guy, yeah, we're actually shooting the video live here, so this is my workflow. I do multiple takes until it works, and it's been fun. I've been doing a bunch of these now in live streams. So that's what you're watching here is the making of the sausage, if you will. So let's start this one more time. 3, 2, 1. So now we're taking a look at the Synology 218 Plus playing back the very same film. But look at this. It is decoding in hardware as well as encoding in hardware. And if we remember from just a few moments ago, the WD device did not have that HW next to it. So this one is running much more efficiently. And if we jump down to the CPU utilization, check it out. We are significantly lower on the CPU load here, doing the exact same task because we're making use of that accelerated Intel hardware decoding and encoding to get this transcode to work properly, and that's a significant performance boost. Now you might be wondering, how do you know whether or not you have this or not? So let's take a look at some things you can look for on the devices that you're using to figure out what's going to work in your particular environment. All right, I think that works, right? And I'm just going to log that clip. And that's right, Handquake. We keep doing it over and over again until I'm happy with it. And one of the things that I have been doing over the years is I will not get out of this chair until I'm satisfied that I've got what I'm trying to get across. And some nights it takes a really long time. But I do better when you're all watching me, so it's helpful. All right, so now what I'm going to do is, let's go, all right, so we're going to pull up, I'm going to see if I can find the WD specs. So we're going to look up the 218 plus specs, and we're going to look up the WD MyCloud specs so we can do a proper comparison here. So we'll just get that page ready to go. So we'll scroll back up. Where did it go? So we'll go over to the specifications here. And you get the processor generally right out of the gate here. And I'm just going to add a tab over here. And some of you might be wondering why I'm not using the Brave browser tonight. I've been having issues with Brave on my MacBook here in that it will start crashing. By the way, isn't this great? You always see my review front and center here. It will start crashing. And what happens is it doesn't let me load the browser up again until I reboot. So I've been dealing with this now. Like, it'll work fine for like a week or two, and then it just stops completely. I'm just trying to see if they have the processor listed here. It's full specifications. There we go. All right, compatibility. Huh. That's not quite full specifications, is it? Compatibility. Where is the processor? All right. Resources. Let's see if there's a... Warranty, product numbers. Let's go back here and see if I can find... I know what it is, but I'm just trying to see if I can find it on a web page somewhere. Oh, here it is, N3710. Oops. N3710. Okay, there we go. All right. So let's see where we last left off. So Gumbo's question, he's saying with the WD, do we need to convert first? Yeah, you would probably need to on the WD. But now this is only for, and I'll preface this because we're talking strictly about HEVC. So if it's a 10-bit HEVC file, that is a requirement that you'll probably need to do something to it first, 10-bit. And what I'll do, I have it on my notes here, is to show an example of something that will play HEVC that's not a 10-bit file. So there's different types of files that you're going to encounter. And I would say, you know, it's safe to say as you get into the 4K Blu-ray world that you'll encounter more and more of that. Okay. So let's go over to, I just want to see where I last left off on that clip there. Using to figure out what's going to work in your particular environment. Devices that you're using to figure out what's going to work in your particular environment. Okay, there we go. All right, so 3, 2, 1. So here we are on the product page for the PR2100WD NAS, and I found that it's running with an Intel N3710 processor. And the best thing you can do is go out to Google and just Google it, and you'll find your way to this Intel support page. And what you want to look for is the code name. And you can see here that the processor in the PR2100 comes from the Braswell line of Intel chips. And if we go back to that Wikipedia chart, sure enough, we get a list of what's compatible. So you can see here under Braswell, we can do MPEG-2, and that's encode and decode. We can do AVC, which is H.264, like you might encounter on a Blu-ray disc. MPEG-2 is what you'll encounter on a DVD, so you shouldn't have any trouble with 1080p Blu-rays or DVDs on the MyCloud. But as we work our way down into some of these other codecs, you'll see here that HEVC will decode in hardware, but the 10-bit HEVC, like we'll find on some of those Blu-ray discs, the new 4K Blu-rays, that doesn't encode or decode. I got to do this again because I'm all over the place on my mouse work here. It's hard to do these things live sometimes. All right, so let's go back over to the MyCloud thing, and we'll pick this up from there. 3, 2, 1. So I took a look on the WD MyCloud product page, and you can see that it is running with an N3710 processor. And if you Google that N3710, the first result you'll see is the Intel specification sheet. And what you want to look for here is the code name that processor was under. And this is a Braswell processor. And if we jump back to the chart we were looking at a little bit earlier, you can see that under Braswell Cherry Trail, we're only able to decode HEVC video, but not the 10-bit video that the Blu-rays in 4K often require. So that is why the MyCloud is choking. But I know that my 218 Plus from Synology here is running with an Apollo Lake chip. And as you can see here, it is able to decode that HEVC 10-bit video up to 8K. It can't I messed it up again. Let me try this one more time. Let me go one more time here. I think part of the problem, by the way, with this transcoding thing is that there's more and more happening here, and different configurations will be impacted in different ways. You know, so this example of the WD MyCloud situation is one that I think you wouldn't have encountered before. Everything would have been working fine until you put that first 4K Blu-ray on there, and then everything blows up. So that's kind of the track there. So I'm going to be shooting this spot one more time here until I get it right. 3, 2, 1. So I went on to the WD MyCloud product page, and we can see that it's running with a Pentium N3710 processor. And if you Google that and then go over to the Intel product page, that will likely be the first thing to come up. Take a look at the code name, and you can see here that this is a Braswell family chip. And if we go back to that Wikipedia chart that we looked at a little bit earlier, you will see that the Braswell Cherry Trail chips here do not support encoding or decoding of HEVC 10-bit video. You'll note here it does do HEVC, that's not 10-bit in decoding only, but again, we were looking at a 4K Blu-ray HEVC file, which is almost always going to be encoded at 10-bit, and it's just not going to work because the hardware doesn't support that. Now, the processor inside the Synology has an Apollo Lake chip, and as you can see here, it will decode, but not encode, HEVC video up to 8K, and that is why the Synology is doing better. It has a newer Intel processor inside that can do that decoding in hardware, and that's why we're able to get the efficiency that you just saw it achieve for us. Now, incidentally, though, if we go back to the Braswell chart here, you can see that it does fine with MPEG-2, which is what you'll find on DVD movies, and it also does okay with AVC, which is H.264, and that is what most 1080p Blu-ray movies are encoded with. So if your library is all 1080p Blu-ray and a bunch of DVDs, you got no problem with that older chip. It's only when you go into the newer 4K Blu-ray discs that you're going to be running into some trouble. So just keep that stuff in mind as you are looking at building out your library and trying to determine what your hardware requirements are. And it's really important that you do this research up front, especially if you're buying a network-attached storage device or you're using a PC with an older processor, so you know what to expect before you jump into it and you can make the right purchasing decision for your hardware. How did I do there, everybody? Did that make more sense? All All right, so I'm going to put that in there. And I think I can do one more thing to illustrate this, because I actually have on the MyCloud an HEVC file that's not 10-bit that will decode properly. So we should probably just demo that just for the heck of it. I may or may not use it, but all right, so this is encoding explained. And I'm pretty sure that I referenced that chart. Let me just make sure I did reference that chart before we got started, because I know I was talking to you all about it. Oh, maybe I didn't. Hang on. Okay, yeah, we did that in the MyCloud portion there. Let me see what I did there. Hang on one second. Bit decoding in hardware, which is what we need for the full hardware transcode to happen. So I'm going to pull up another page here on my computer's web browser. This comes from Wikipedia, and I'll have a link down below in the video description so you can find this. And the processor inside of the MyCloud is based on the Braswell Cherry Trail architecture. And if we look here on the chart for the QuickSync support, you'll see that HEVC video decoding is supported, but 10-bit is not here on my computer's web browser in hardware, which is what we need for the full hardware transcode to happen. I just doubled that up, so now I've got a problem. So I got to figure out, because I just basically redid what I just did before. So I think what I want to do here is see if we can jump to, let me just jump back to this for a second here. And taking so many resources to get going is because the processor on the MyCloud, again, doesn't buy the amount of CPU load to decode this movie. And the reason why her experience is being impacted by the amount of CPU load to decode this movie. Now I want to see what happens if we jump to the next part here. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. So now for you to, 3, 2, 1. So to understand how this works, what we're doing is we are reading the video file off the disk. Yeah, so I think I'm going to redo what I just did. Because this all flows pretty nicely here, and I think what I can do is I can actually shorten this up because I kind of already did here what I did before. So I think I'm going to reshoot this part, and that way the thing will flow fine. Because I think we had adequately explained everything before that, so that's what we're gonna redo this. And this will all be perfectly fine when the recorded video is done. But this is my workflow, is that I'm constantly thinking about the linear nature in which I am explaining things. So I think what we'll do here, instead of repeating what we did already, is do the more explanatory, well, how do you find out what your processor has? And that's how we can get to what we want to do here. So, all right, so let's try this one more time, and then we'll be in better shape. But this is what it takes to make a video, folks. You gotta start and stop and replay and figure out what works. And then in your head, you gotta keep building, you gotta build this out, because it's, you don't wanna have to go back and reshoot. And it's hard to reshoot because I'm not gonna be wearing the same sweater tomorrow, right? So, or maybe, I guess I could put it back on again. But it's just easier to have it done right the first time. So that's where we go. All right, here we go, 3, 2, 1. So how do you find out what processor your particular device is running and what it supports? Well, the best way to do it is to Google it. So what I did here is I Googled the product page for the MyCloud device. That was how I found out which processor it had. And after you get that processor number, if you go to Google and just type that in, the first result almost always will be this product support page on the Intel specifications site here, and you'll get a code name for the processor. So here we got the N3710 from the MyCloud. Code name is Braswell. If we go back to that quick sync chart, we can go through here and see exactly what it supports. Now the 218 Plus here is running with an Apollo Lake chip. I was good until I screwed it up there. So let's do this one more time, and then we'll be good. It's also getting later, and as it gets later, I start making more mistakes because I get fatigued. So this is what's happening here. And John says it's like a Ninth Symphony by Beethoven. And then Jonko says it's replayception, and Confirm says it's reception. Yes, there's a lot of replaying of things. But at least we're not running on tape where we'd have to rewind and wait for that, right? It's instantaneous digital. So there you go. 3, 2, 1. So how do you find out what chip you have and what it can do? Well, the best thing you can do is Google it. So what I did here is I Googled the WD MyCloud PR2100. And as you can see here, it is running, according to WD, with an N3710 processor from Intel. If you take that code and dump it into Google, you'll be brought to the Intel specifications site. And then when you're there, you want to look for the code name, and you'll see that this chip is a Braswell chip. And then if you jump back to that chart, you can see what the Braswell chips can do. And again, this one cannot do the HEVC 10-bit, either encode or decode. Now the Synology, though, is running with an Apollo Lake processor, and that chip can decode the HEVC 10-bit video up to 8K. It can't encode it, but it can decode it, and you're able to get things to work better, as we just saw in the demo here. So now let's move on to the NVIDIA Shield, because the Shield is unique. It's not powered by an Intel chip, but it's optimized for hardware transcoding. Let's see if it can tackle that same file. That's better. So now I'm happy. Hopefully you're all happy too, because you probably don't want me to do that again. So let me just, I'm not even going to play it back for you because you've already seen this now a million times. So we'll get back to that. Josh S. on Amazon had a question about YouTube and making money, and I will talk about that in a little bit because it's something worth talking about. But I'm actually doing okay on both platforms. So, all right. So this is going to be where to find processor. All right. Anthony says, yeah, I have my clone takeover. I would love to have a clone. That'd be awesome just to have somebody. If I had a twin, that could work, right? Having a twin brother or something. And one day I'll have my daughter do this. Have her start in the family business here. All right, so Gumbo's wanting to know, is 8K coming out? Well, 8K is out now. I think Marcus Brownlee's uploading in 8K on YouTube. So you can play back 8K with a Apollo Lake processor. That was the big jump when they implemented the hardware decoding of that video. We tested a lot of mini PCs that run with the same thing. All right, so I'm going to kill the movie on the Synology, and now we're going to jump over to the Shield. So here we are, Studio Shield. And we're going to hit play. And I'm going to go down here. Oops. I'm trying to avoid showing the whole film. We are going to show a portion of the film in a little bit because there is one little thing that you need to know about HDR movies and hardware transcoding, which will be a bit problematic. All right, let's make sure this starts up here. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. And what's neat about the Shield, as you can see here, it seems to be doing it pretty quickly. So we're going, again, to 720p. All right, and it's playing. So what's great about the Shield is that it is doing both in hardware. See that? So that's one of the cool things about the Shield is that, you know, this chip dates back to like 2014, but no problem. So it is good stuff. Travis Rhodes knows what I'm talking about, so that is it. All right, so let me answer. Cookie Monster's got some great questions tonight because I think this is a topic worth talking about here during the stream. Is 4K HEVC better than 4K X264? So here's the deal. HEVC will deliver better quality at a lower bit rate. So you could get the same quality. I don't know what the exact division is. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. But you can get, it just looks better at a lower bit rate. So in the case of the 4K Blu-ray discs, they actually run at a pretty high bit rate. So they look much better than a Blu-ray would if you had a 1080p movie, let's say, in both HEVC at the same bit rate. The Blu-ray at the HEVC will look better because it's a high efficiency codec and it's able to do better with less bits, so you can get more stuff going. So if you are encoding media, see, it all depends on what the source is too. So if you're taking a Blu-ray movie, you could make it smaller by going from H.264 to HEVC without much quality loss with a smaller file. But there's always the generational loss and that sort of thing that goes on when you do that kind of thing. So you have to kind of weigh the options there. All right, so let me just check. Now, I don't think I referenced, I'm pretty sure I didn't reference the MyCloud playing the HEVC file, because I actually have an HEVC file. I hate to do this to you all. I'm just going to play back this clip real quick because I want to make sure I didn't promise something and not deliver it. So let me just play this back. 3, 2, 1. Sorry, everybody. So how do you find out what chip you have and what it can do? Well, the best thing you can do is Google it. And then if you jump back to that chart, you can see what the Braswell chips can do. And again, this one cannot do the HEVC 10-bit, either encode or decode. Now, the Synology, though, is running with an Apollo Lake processor, and that chip can decode the HEVC 10-bit video up to 8K. It can't encode it, but it can decode it, and you're able to get things to work better, as we just saw in the demo here. So now let's move on to... Okay, good. So I did not promise something that I didn't deliver. So let's go to the end there. Okay, so now we are going to... I was trying to see if we can reference it. It's playing. Yeah, here it is. Okay, perfect. Now, the only thing I dislike about the Shield is that it doesn't give me a CPU utilization. So I don't know what it's doing CPU-wise here, but it is able to play back the movie. So for whatever reason, they don't give you the CPU data here. You just get a bandwidth thing and a play history, but no CPU data. So I'm sure there's something I could run on it to just get a CPU overhead, but it's doing it in hardware, so it's pretty efficient. Okay. 3, let's start on camera 5. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. All right, so here we are running the same movie again on the NVIDIA Shield. And as you can see here, we are decoding that one more time. 3, 2, 1. So here we are on the Studio Shield, and as you can see here, we are decoding the video in hardware. So the Shield's processor supports hardware decoding of 10-bit HEVC, and we are transcoding in hardware to H.264. So it's running just as well as it was on the Synology device. I did find it took just a little bit longer for it to spin up, but really it's feeling about the same to me. So as you can see here, the Shield can do a good job with all of the older media you might have and some of the newer media as well. But there is one thing you got to look out for at the moment related to HDR video, because a lot of these 4K Blu-ray movies you're watching, if not all of them, are encoded in HDR, and that's going to provide additional challenges when you're trying to transcode one of those movies. Let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, now we got to figure out how to do this without a copyright strike. So let's see what we can make happen here. I'm going to try to find maybe a way I can take a still image. And actually, the best way I can do that is This is going to be the tone mapping thing. So what happens here is that when you transcode the movie, it doesn't do anything with the HDR data, so the color looks way off. And I believe it's something they're working on, but it is not yet available in the Plex server. But I think there's going to be something. It's a big request by the community, so I think they're going to be working on that. I'm just trying to find a good example so I can get it to look as I'm seeing it here. That's the trick. And just someone's watching this as it's playing back, and I can't show you because it'll be a problem. It's hard. You got to be careful with this copyright stuff. It's a big deal. So, and I don't think I've got any HDR demo stuff that I could even run through this thing. So that makes it a little bit trickier. And sometimes it doesn't look all that bad, but it is definitely, you notice it if you've ever watched. So like you play this back, you'll just notice that it's not. All right, this might work. So let me take a look at this. Or let me say that again. How about all of you take a look at what I'm going to show you here, and let me know if this might be a good way to explain it. So this is what I'm seeing here from the transcode, and the best way I can describe this is that the colors are off, and it may not look like it's off, but it is. The star field is too bright. The colors aren't quite there. I can try to zoom in a little bit or get a different scene. Let me just play it back a little bit further here and see if we can figure out this might. I'm just trying to find something that really, it's just hard to demonstrate on camera with a still frame. And I think it should be a lot darker is really what it comes down to. By the way, here's my thought on the Star Wars movie. I say this every time you all have to listen to this, but Star Wars is very important to me. Because it was something, it was the thing I watched when I was a kid. That was my thing. I think after watching Star Trek Picard, that why don't you all check that out? What do you think of that? Travis said to find some flesh tones. It'll look gray. So let's see if we can find some flesh tones. Maybe fast forward a little bit. After watching Star Trek Picard, I think what they should have done with Star Wars, I talked about this the other night, is they should have, and again, who am I, right? But they should have had the legacy characters be the lead, or one of them. Maybe, and granted, Carrie Fisher tragically passed away, but maybe it would have been having Carrie Fisher be the lead in this film, leading everybody, and having the new characters be be kind of the supporting actors. And then, they could have had that trilogy, and then another one with the new characters as the lead, right? So, and I think what really got everybody upset was that the legacy characters, especially with The Last Jedi, were very underutilized. And I think people really wanted Luke Skywalker to be Luke Skywalker again. And if you look at what Picard is doing, and I don't know if any of you saw that first episode, it was well done in the sense that Picard is the lead. Patrick Stewart, who plays Picard, is the lead. And what was also unique about it was that they had him as part of the production and the writing. He's actually got producer credits on the show. And I think that made the difference because I'm just trying to find a scene here that works. It's so hard to get like a good still frame here. So the result is that you've got the character that you loved, who is, the character that you remembered and doing the things that you want that character to do. Yes, he's older, but he's still the same guy with the same sense of purpose, right? And I'm not going to give you any spoilers there, but I think what was great about the Picard first episode is that you can see his character kind of awakening. All right, Travis, why don't you look at this one? Tell me what you think of that. I think this is a good example. But I think you see this character kind of awakening again, and that's the glue to the original. And I think if they had used Mark Hamill or Carrie Fisher. I know that what's his name? Han Solo. You know what I'm talking about. He didn't want to be in it really. He wanted the outcome that happened. But I think they had at least two that would have been willing to be the lead. And I'll tell you what. I could see why Mark Hamill was upset about what they did with his character, because they didn't. He wasn't consulted. He wasn't part of that decision. And I think when you've got a character as beloved as that, you have to bring him in, because they are the character. Even though he did it back in the 80s and 70s and that was it. In everyone else's mind, he's the guy. And so it was funny because I liked The Last Jedi. I don't like what they did with his character, but I accepted it because it's not mine. So you can do whatever you want, you own it. But I think in hindsight, if it had been about Carrie Fisher or Princess Leia looking for Luke, and with Rey finding him at the end of the movie, and then the second film he's out there doing what he does, it would have been a very different reaction, I think, in the end. And clearly they just look. I found that the Rise of Skywalker entertaining, very entertaining, but it was not the movie that I think they were going to make when they started this. And JJ did a great job, very entertaining, but it just didn't do it for me. All right, back to work here. There was a question about what I'm using to switch. Now I'm using my TriCaster, so I use the TriCaster most of the time. But the ATEM, I am going to actually, there may be a live stream we use the ATEM for in the near future, because what I plan to do with the ATEM is if I'm doing stuff in other parts of the house, we'll probably have the ATEM do the switching, and then we'll pipe it down here via NDI or something. Okay. Odin's Movie Blog wants to know, can you use RAID functionality with a Shield? So if you bought not through the Shield directly, but you could get, I think they're still out there, these USB RAID arrays. So they have a RAID chip on board the USB enclosure, and that would do it. So that would certainly do it. All right. And Lon.TV makes a good point too. You don't want to give it to the actors. I think normally you don't give it to the actors. And what they did with Picard was his condition was, I'm part of this creative team, or else, or it's not happening. And I don't know. I'll tell you what. Like the first episode to me felt like perfect in the sense that it was delicate. You know what I mean? Like it very delicately brought him back into things. And he's a great actor. I mean, good Lord. The guy's just amazing. But you know what? Mark Hamill's a great actor, and so was Carrie Fisher and everybody. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, so here's my thing. I got to get back to this, but it's just bugging me. Here's what I would have done. One of two things. One, what I just mentioned, which was have the legacy characters be the lead with the new characters in supporting roles like we're seeing in Picard. That seems to be working quite well there, because you know what? You could start a whole spin-off show with those characters once this gets going, right? Second option would be you set it so far off into the future, like George Lucas wanted to do, that the legacy characters are long gone, and you could have Luke Skywalker come in as a Force ghost every once in a while, and everyone would have accepted that. I think what it is they situated the new films too close to the other ones, and because they did that, they should have had the legacy characters. So that's my thought. But we're done here. I gotta get back to work. Okay, so let me see where I left off on this last point here. For hardware transcoding, let's see if it can tackle that same file. Okay, I didn't log. Oops, I didn't log my my clip. So let me log my clip. It's funny. I said, this will be done in an hour tonight. Nope, we're into an hour and 43 minutes, almost. NVIDIA Shield performance. All right. Did I mention the lack of CPU? I don't think I did. Oh, Sylvester, yeah, The Expanse is a great show. Season 4 was excellent. So here we are on the Studio Shield, and as you can see here, we are decoding the video in hardware. So the Shield's processor supports hardware decoding of 10 as well. But there is one thing you can for it to spin up, but really it's feeling about the same to me. So as you can see here, the Shield can do a good job with all of the older media you might have and some of the newer media as well. But okay. What I didn't say there was, so we're going to bridge that with a still frame. Because what I didn't say there was the CPU stuff, because I know people would be asking about that. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to pick back up on me for this next part. And I'm going to leave a note to Jake, who's going to edit this as well. But there is one thing you got to look. Okay, so cut before, but there is one thing. Cut before, because there is. All right, there we go. Perfect. Okay. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Now, the only issue with the Shield is that you don't get a CPU utilization chart in the Plex analytics. I don't know exactly how much CPU this is draining out of that. 3, 2, 1. Now, the one issue with the Shield, though, is that its Plex analytics don't give us a CPU utilization chart, at least at the time I'm recording this video. My advice on the Shield has always been that you can generally expect about 2 or 3 transcoding sessions to go on simultaneously before you really start bogging things down. But that number will reduce dramatically if you're doing something locally on the Shield in addition to having people watching media from it. It's really not designed as a server, so just keep that in mind. You want to try to keep that thing pretty clear when you're doing hardware transcoding sessions just to get the best possible quality and consistency out of it. Now, there is one outstanding issue here, though, and that relates to HDR video. Most of the 4K Blu-rays out there, if not all of them, have their 4K video HDR encoded, that high dynamic range, the Dolby Vision and the HDR10, that of course looks great on our TVs, but when you transcode video, all the color toning doesn't happen here. So this is a still frame from The Last Jedi. You can see the colors here look totally off, and this is what it's transcoding at the moment. This is a major point of discussion in the Plex forums, and I would imagine at some point there's going to be something done to address this. But at the moment, your videos are not going to look all that great if they're coming off of a 4K Blu-ray disc because of this color issue. So just be aware of that. At the moment, your transcoded files will not look great from a color standpoint because it isn't doing anything to get rid of the HDR and convert it to SDR or have it take advantage of an HDR display you may have on the computer or tablet that is watching that content. So right now, anything transcoded is not passing through the HDR, and you've got some color issues to deal with there. I'm going to come back and try this one more time. I need to explain this quicker. Tone mapping, that's the term. Okay. All right, one more time. 3, 2, 1. Now, the one thing we don't have on the NVIDIA Shield's Plex analytics is CPU utilization, so I don't know exactly how much CPU is being eaten up by this task. But one thing I often remind people about is that the Shield isn't really designed to be a server. So if you are doing things locally on it, like watching some other media while somebody else is streaming media from it, you might see some performance issues there. So try to keep it clear so that the transcoding works reliably. Now, the big issue right now when you're transcoding 4K video is tone mapping, because what's going to happen on most of the 4K movies that you're watching, if they came off of a Blu-ray, is that they are encoded with HDR for our fancy new television screens. And the transcoding currently doesn't do any tone mapping. It just basically gives you an image that, as you can see here, doesn't look all that accurate after it's transcoded. It won't take advantage of an HDR display if you have it on your computer. So at the moment, there's just no tone mapping as part of the transcoding process. This is a big topic of discussion on the Plex forums, so I'm sure at some point this issue will get addressed. But right now, you'll note that the color is not going to look all that great coming off of your 4K HDR Blu-ray MKV files, for example. So a lot of this is something that won't be that relevant for the time I'm recording this video. I'm getting to blabbery again. All right, let me try this one more time. And then we're going to be able to wrap this up because I think I got everything I wanted to cover here. Yep, I did. All right. Yeah, so the direct play trap is a very good point. 3, 2, 1. Now, one thing to note on the NVIDIA Shield is that it doesn't have a CPU. 3, 2, 1. Now, one thing to note on the NVIDIA Shield is that it doesn't have any CPU data inside of its analytics module. So you're not going to see how much of the CPU is being taken up by that hardware transcoding session. My advice on the Shield is to try not to do too much on it while you're serving media out, because the Shield isn't really designed to be a server, and as a result, things that you might be doing locally, like playing games or watching some other media, might drain some of the resources available for the Plex server to operate in. So just take it easy on the Shield as a server. My advice always is to look at a NAS device to serve your media if you're going to be doing a lot of transcoding sessions. Now, one last thing to talk about, and that is color tone mapping. This might be hard to see in this video, but the color on screen here doesn't look right. And the reason is that we have a 4K Blu-ray movie, and the video is encoded with HDR. So when we're on our fancy 4K displays, it looks beautiful. But on a transcode, it looks a little less than beautiful right now because it's not doing anything to get the color right during that transcoding process. So this means that if you are transcoding to a laptop with an HDR display, it's not going to be displaying the video properly, even with an HDR display. And of course, if you're on a SDR display like my MacBook here, the colors will also look off on it. So this is something that will get dealt with at some point in the near future. Plex is getting a lot of feedback in the forums about it. So this will not be an issue down the road, but right now it is an issue, and all of your 4K Blu-ray files will not look good at all if you are transcoding them. Now, if you're like me and you generally watch those 4K movies just within your home, that's no problem. It will effectively do the HDR playback when you're not doing any transcoding at all. But once that transcoder kicks in, those color issues will kick in as well, and that's something you need to be aware of there. So hopefully that answers some of your questions about HEVC and hardware transcoding. One thing that Plex does not do at the moment is encode in HEVC. So if you've got a 4K movie at HEVC, it will be transcoded to H.264 before it gets transmitted to your device. I don't know if they plan on changing that anytime soon. It might deliver better quality down the road if you are streaming to a mobile device over cellular. But right now, the output is H.264 only. And of course, that means it will be very compatible across many different devices. And hopefully, we'll see a solution to the tone mapping here in the near future, so you'll have more flexibility with your 4K files. What I've been doing for some of my favorite media is I store a 1080p version so I can stream it outside the house, and then I also store the 4K version for local playback. And again, that's why having a NAS with a lot of storage can really make a big difference. So hopefully this was a helpful insight into the high efficiency video codec. I'd love to hear your feedback down in the comments below, because that will help us come up with more topics for the future. I want to thank Plex for their support of the channel, and until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching. All right, I think that works. What do you all think? All right, I think that will work. All right, we're going to just rename this to 4006 conclusion, and we can wrap up the shoot and I'll take a few questions for a few more minutes and see what we got. So yeah, what'd you all think? This was a fun one. Asti said that was a glitch-free speed run. That's what sometimes it feels like I'm doing speed runs on these videos. And it was this was a fun one because it was I love it when I learn new things, and I hadn't done really a deep dive into this HEVC stuff. And it was concerning to me too that my MyCloud doesn't support that, because I use that thing quite a bit. So I'm actually in the early stages of redoing all my local storage. So I might come up with some other solution there. So we'll see what happens here. But it looks like lots of thumbs up here. So William and Chad and Asti Fu and Dave, everyone's Spuds is saying everything's looking good here. So. Oh, so John Moshe said someone was asking about income on YouTube. Yeah, here's what's interesting is that I'm actually doing better on YouTube now than I've ever done. Even now we're hitting the quieter period, so I'm actually doing okay. And what I noticed, believe it or not, was when all the adpocalypse stuff started happening, I did better after that, because I think there's a risk level associated with different content, and here I don't do anything controversial. I mean, ever. So I think that helps, unless I talk about a particular media serving application that they don't like anymore. I don't drink, and this is about all I drink anyhow. So there's never anything that's really going to be an issue, I think, for YouTube. So as a result, the adpocalypse created a situation where there was a greater scarcity of safe inventory for brands, and I think that that helped with the channel. So that was helpful there. But as far as appearing on other platforms, I am always looking to branch out, because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And one of the nice things about the era that we're in is that I don't work for anybody but myself. So I don't have to, be on just one platform only. And there are situations where I think some videos will do well on Amazon, maybe better than they might on YouTube. So I'm going to put my videos up everywhere. We're on Plex. We're everywhere there. So Astifu makes a very good point, because they. Yeah, so what's happening now, though, with YouTube, and I'm happy they're doing this, is that there are advertisers that do want to be on some of that raunchier content. Let's say you got a raunchy comedy movie you want to advertise. What better way to do that than put it on a raunchy video, right? So I think there's, now that they've got the brand safety put in place, now they can start looking at, okay, we have risk levels. Here's a block of channels that are high quality, but not so brand safe for these reasons, but there is a brand that probably wants to be on those kinds of videos. So I think we're going to see things get better for everybody, because a raunchy ad's not going to do well on this non-raunchy content, right? So it's always finding the best match for everything. So I think we're going to see that, that those channels getting demonetized, we'll start seeing their revenue improve. Because when you get demonetized, it doesn't mean you don't get any advertising anymore. It means that by default, an advertiser won't be advertising on you unless they opt in to do that. And I think the more that YouTube can signal to advertisers that this content is safe, or this content is not safe, but this content has this content in it, that'll give them more opportunity to figure it all out. And I think the big thing that really hurt the creators that were making some of the raunchier stuff was the fact that there wasn't any brand safety at the outset. And the advertisers knew that, but I don't think the brands that the advertisers were working on behalf of knew that. And so that was why there was such a knee-jerk reaction, because YouTube had to just hit the reset button. So anyone that was controversial, took a hit. And it's unfortunate, because it's hurt journalism a lot, because you can't really talk about news, items in the news anymore, because that's something that's going to get demonetized, and I don't think that's good. So we'll see where it goes. Servesh, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Spud says, have gadgets will travel. Yes, I always travel with a lot of gadgets. When I go on these production trips, it's like I've figured out how to get everything into a single backpack, but it weighs a ton. Dave Janes says there's some people that put their Plex server on their router. Yeah, so I think here's the basic rule of thumb is that if the device doesn't have, and there's one exception to this rule, which I'll get to in a second. If the device doesn't have that Intel chip in it, then it's not going to be great at transcoding, with the exception of the NVIDIA Shield over there, because that one does have it. So if you lack the Intel QuickSync, I think there's some support for NVIDIA GPUs as well, but a router is not going to have either one of those things. So the router will do fine just moving media around in the house. That's not a heavy lift. It's just file sharing. But when you get into the transcoding, like we saw here, done. It's just not going to work. So, and actually tonight, Rick Vestudo asked a great question, because he was looking at two different Synology NAS devices. He was looking at the 419 Slim and the 718 Plus. And he was strongly considering the 419 Slim until we looked up what processor it was running. It would not be able to do the hardware transcoding at all. And he would spend a lot of money on something that wouldn't work. So yeah, in the house, router's fine. But if the router is not running with a QuickSync Intel chip, ain't going to work. So that's the rule of thumb there. John Moshe, this is another good question. John Moshe asked about Voodoo's disk to digital in place of a NAS to save time. So, that will only get the movie on the Voodoo service, so you couldn't watch it through Plex. You need to take the data off the disk itself. But I have used disk to digital, because I had a couple of a few of my favorite movies that I bought on DVD 20 years ago. I was able to upgrade them to a 1080p streaming version. So I do have a bunch of movies that I don't necessarily need in the highest quality, that I just like to turn on every once in a while. So I'll put those up in the Voodoo service. And the cool thing with the Voodoo service is that it links up with all the other services through Movies Anywhere. So when you do a disk to digital, now you've got it on Amazon, you've got it on iTunes, it shows up, if the movie supports that, which many of them do, it's just everywhere. It's great. So I did a video on that, actually. Maurice Plummer wants to know, can you install and watch Plex on a Fire Stick? Yes, in fact, we have been using a Fire Stick to watch Plex. It cannot be the server. I don't believe it'll support serving media. But, let me just pull it up here real quick. It went to sleep on me. So, but yeah, this is the 4K Fire Stick. And let me just pull it up here, wait for it to load. I think it actually did an update while we were shooting the video. There it goes. I'll tell you, the Fire Stick 4K, great value. It's a good device, but here you go. This is running on the Fire Stick. And you can do all the free movie stuff with Plex. You can connect to your server. All that stuff works. So I can go to movies here. I think this is on my... Yeah, so there's my server, and there you got The Last Jedi, and you can watch it on there too if you wanted to. So, and actually on your smart TV, you probably have it too. Thank you, David, for the kind words. It does take a lot of work. I don't usually work this late anymore. So back when I had a day job, I would be working like this. I would be up this late working. But now I can go to bed at a reasonable hour most of the time, provided the children are cooperative. Let's see. I'll take a few more questions. I'm going to call it quits for the night here. And Travis makes a good point. Any streaming service, just like the music we were talking about before, any streaming service for video is not going to be as good as what you'll get on a Blu-ray disc, or pretty much on a Blu-ray disc, whether it's 4K or 1080p. Best quality you'll get is out of those. So I think if there's a movie you really, really like, buy it on disc. And the reason is that most of the newer movies now will also give you a Movies Anywhere coupon in the box. So when you buy a 4K Blu-ray, for example, you get the 1080p disc most of the time, you get a 4K Blu-ray disc, and you get the coupon so you can put it on, as a streaming thing somewhere. And that's for me, that's been working fine. So, what I put on Plex is kind of a mix of things. It's my favorite stuff goes on Plex. And then, if I have a movie or two that I want to watch on it and I'm done with it, I sometimes delete it off the server, because those Blu-rays take up a lot. So just keep that in mind. So I have a mix of media for my strategy. Travis has kids on his Plex, on his Fire Stick with Plex all the time. Yeah, everyone's saying they've had very good luck with the Fire Stick. The one thing that I have had a hard time on the Fire Stick with on Plex is, and it's just based on the bandwidth, is the 4K HDR Blu-ray movies, because they need a lot more bandwidth than the Wi-Fi is going to deliver on that. And even on the Amazon Fire devices that have Ethernet, equal issue. It's not ideal for that. So the only device that is really well suited for in-home 4K Plex Blu-ray movie watching with Atmos and everything else is the Shield. It's the best home theater device out there for enthusiasts. So that is the one to look for. Dave Scarpa, Beat to Bubble wants to know the next string of live streams for this week. I don't have a schedule for the evening ones yet. I've only got a couple of days this week that work. But what I will be doing is just popping on randomly like we've been doing. So hit the notification bell. I don't have the times yet. They kept me busy this week, though. We did 4 of them in the evening. So it was good, though. It's kind of nice. What's nice is that it takes some of the pressure off for the week because now I've got a video done that I would have shot, would have taken half of my workday to do. So it's good to have that done now. Dave Scarpa uses an i3 Mac Mini for his server, and he can encode. It uses the W2 chip for HEVC encoding. No, Plex doesn't use that chip, but your i3 Mac Mini, if it has that W2, has a recent processor. So I would do what we did in the video is look up the processor and the family type and go to that Wikipedia chart and see what it supports. But I would imagine that i3 should do everything. So that should work. Rick is going to look at getting the 6520 Slim for movies. So cool. That should work. Enjoy it. It's a nice, what's nice about it is that it is I don't know where I put it. It is a 6-bay NAS, so you have more options for the type of array you want to do. So you could do with one of these, you could do a SHR2, which would allow for 2 drive failures and still function. So if you have a 4-bay NAS, you can usually tolerate 1 drive failure, but with this, you could have a 2 failure setup, and that's often useful. Or you could have a hot spare. You could do a lot of neat things with this. Or you start off with 2 and then expand out as you go. I did a video too because the combination of sizes that you pick is really critical for these. So if you pick the wrong combination of drives, then you don't get the space all the time. So they have a RAID calculator. I did a video on how to set up a Synology NAS recently, and I would definitely check that out just to get an idea as to what kind of drives you need. Let's see. So Asti wants to know about the Shield TV takes input from my regular Vizio TV remote. Does the current gen round model work? Yeah, so that's HDMI CEC. That should work. That definitely works on the new ones too, because it just works over CEC and it'll just go right through your TV. I'm not sure what Chad's talking about. Fire Stick 4K still green screen on HD content. I'm not sure what he's experiencing there. And William, I would check out the Make MKV forums about the drives that can do the 4K transfers, because it's gotten complicated as everything is getting. But there are drives out there that you can get to do that. All right, everybody, I think I am going to call it a night. I want to thank you all for tuning in and offering feedback. The feedback I got, this is what I love doing these things live, is that the feedback I got while I was recording helped make the video better. So, it's good to hear, like when someone's confused about something, you hear it in the chat, because if I can fix that now, that means the video is going to be better and I won't need to do a follow-up, right? So I think that's helpful. And John, this is good. This is a good one. So John Moshi says one of his favorite videos was the slow motion camera we did in my backyard. So it's funny. We spent a lot of time on that video. We did a whole day. It never takes me more than like three hours to record a video. We spent the whole day recording that video. My friend came in. I mean, that camera's huge. It was not easy to transport that thing. It was this whole big production. We went out to the store. We got all this stuff to do, and then we spent probably almost as much time editing as we shot that video, because we had multicam. We were just out on my back deck. So that video, from a resource standpoint, was probably the most expensive in this. Taking aside the cost of acquiring the items that I review sometimes, it was the most expensive from a production standpoint of any video I made, a single video I made the whole year. And it didn't do well at all. It was so disappointing because I thought it would be kind of fun to show people how one of these cameras works, but it just, let me look it up real quick and see how it's doing now. But I was totally bummed about that because I thought for sure that would work better. And this is an example of the complexity of how I have things on this channel. So, a lot of creators focus on one topic. So, and I do really well on the Plex stuff, and there's a lot of subscribers that have come in on that. But I haven't done a lot on slow motion cameras, so I don't think YouTube thinks of me or high-speed cameras. YouTube doesn't think of me as a source of information about that, so it was risky for them to do that. So here is, so this was like the most expensive from a production standpoint we've ever done, and I'll just show you the whole thing. And it did the worst, I think, out of just about any video I've done that whole year. So here, that was the result. 3,300 views. And it made $9. That was it. Asti Fu, by the way, thank you very much for your super chat contribution. It is greatly appreciated. And I want to thank Rick as well for his. So yeah, this is like, it was brutal. Brutal. So if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. High-speed camera. And we show you how the thing works. And this camera, that camera costs as much as a Tesla. Just to give you an idea, a Tesla S, not the 3. So it was fun. Shoots in black and white, but it does like up to 1 million frames per second. So that is that. Lon Dog's got some new hot sauce. Check it out. It's called Help Save Me Jesus Ghost Pepper Sauce. Ooh, I got to try that. I tell you, I have my tolerance for spicy has gone like way up, and I need it takes a lot now to get the pain going, and I like the spicy pain. So. And oh yeah, I should mention this before we close out here. I was really sad about Kobe Bryant's accident today. I'm not a big sports fan. I don't watch a lot of sports, but I certainly knew of him. I loved seeing some of the stuff he's been doing with his daughter, who had a basketball aptitude also, who passed away with him. Was really terrible. So I'm interested to see what happened. It seems like it was foggy out there, so. It could have been weather, who knows? I've been exploring the possibility of maybe learning to do taking some flying lessons. And one of the things that has been coming up over and over again in some of the research that I'm doing and talking to some pilots is this notion of get there-itis, which is the desire to try to get to where you want to go, even if weather conditions are not ideal for what you're trying to do. And it's something that if I ever do start flying is going to be, I'm going to be very, very mindful of that, because it looks like, and who knows, this could have been mechanical, it could have been a whole host of issues. I don't want to say it's this or that, but what I'm finding in researching what happens to small aircraft, not all the time, but a bulk of the time, weather is a factor. And flying in weather or flying into weather that you shouldn't be. And sometimes you can't avoid it. Sometimes the weather just closes in on you, but it could be a factor here. We'll see what happens, but oof. Yeah, it's tough. And he was only 41. So, you look at this guy, he had a great career in the NBA. He started, at 17? And, just an amazing talent. I think they won a bunch of championships, right? And then, he retired at, about 3 or 4 years ago. So he had his whole, his second act. He won an Oscar, didn't he? He had like a short film that he did. He was getting into doing some stuff there. I mean, you think about the potential for, someone like him to do a lot of good things with the resources that he was able to acquire through his basketball career. And it looked like he was putting that money to good use. And, the things he was, just horrible. So, all right. Well, on that note, I hate to leave it on a bummer, but that's all we can do is just think of his family and their friends and hope. I think he just has an infant also, so he has another child. So terrible stuff. But we are going to be back. So, by the way, before I close out, so I know a lot of you watching the stream are people that watch me regularly, and we're going to be doing something a little bit different with the wrap up. So for the next month, I'm going to just start experimenting with stuff. Because the wrap-up's been doing okay, but I've been looking at it. It's not growing. It was starting to grow, and then it just dropped off again. So it's not growing. We're not going to stop doing the wrap up. But what I'm going to do is try to cut the length of the wrap up in half and try to find a single topic to talk about each week. And we're going to try to make some of the other portions of the wrap up a little bit more efficient while sticking to the purpose of the video. So the wrap up began as a way of saying, here's what we did last week, here's what we're going to do this week. And then it kind of morphed into this it went from like 8 minutes to 15 to 20 to 30, sometimes to 40. And it takes a long time to prep the show, and it takes a good chunk of my Monday to shoot it. And I'd be totally fine with that if the views were there, but it's been stagnant to kind of declining a bit. So what we're going to do is not cancel the wrap up by any stretch, but we're going to take the wrap up and make 2 videos out of it. So this is the first experiment, and I'm going to just kind of look at it. So we're going to do it for a month and see how it works, and then we'll adjust and go from there. So we're going to do the wrap up on a single topic. And it'll still have the week in review, because that's a good time to do follow-ups to some things that may have come up after the video was posted. And then what we're going to do is a second video of viewer Q&A. So that'll take the other portion of the wrap-up, and I think between the two, you'll look at like 15-ish minutes a piece, and I think it's going to do better. So we're going to try that and see what happens, because I don't want to stop doing the wrap-up. That's my way of talking to you. But I want to make it work better. So the wrap-up's still going to happen on Monday. It's just going to be shorter. And then, a day or two later, we'll have the Q&A come up. So it'll be a fun experiment to see how it plays out. So it's not a failure of a thing, but I just was looking at the viewership on it, and it's weird. Like, it's just a lot of it too is based on the topic that we're talking about. So I did one, on the future of Plex, and 41,000 views. That was like the most watched wrap up ever. And then the next week was right back down to like 4,000 or 5,000. So don't worry. The wrap up is not going away. It's just going to be shorter, and it's going to have. I'm trying to make it like just be less repetitive from week to week. And I think if people are logging in and see a single topic, because it's the other thing from a search perspective is that it's hard to have a video with 5 topics come up in people's search feed. And what I'm finding is that the single topic review videos come up in search feeds better. So we're going to try something different here. And like I said, we're going to break out the Q&A into a second video, and we'll see how that works. So Flukum wants to know the percentage of subscribed viewers versus new viewers. So typically on one of my regular videos, the subscribers might be 10 or 20%, if that. So I'm very much different than some of the other channels, in the sense that a lot of I talked to Marcus Brownlee a couple of years ago, and he was like the opposite. He was like 80 subscriber, 20 non-subscriber. So the wrap up is a little different. So that one is, I think, 70 or 80% subscriber, but I'm only getting like 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000 views out of a 244,000 or 250,000 subscriber base. So for whatever reason, it's not resonating with the subscribers as a whole. So I'm going to try to do some different. So it's going to be different, but it's still the same in that it's going to be the same format, just with one topic or 1 or 2 topics, and then we'll do a Q&A. And so I just want to see how it works. That my gut is looking at the analytics and looking at how people watch. So it wasn't just looking at viewership. I was looking at watch time also, and where people tune in. And I was finding on just about every one of these videos is that the watch time would spike right where the main topic was brought up, and the main topic would be whatever was in the title. So YouTube was delivering this video to people who were looking for that specific thing, right? So the topics that might have been of interest to people that were kind of buried in it were not getting watched. So that's why we've been doing the snippets channel to kind of try to find some search for that. But it's been doing okay, but not great. So that's how we're going to make it all come together. So we'll see how it works. And if it doesn't work, I'll go back to doing it the old way. So it's just an experiment for a month, and I'll explain it during the video tomorrow. Jeff Jones wants to know about the hand motion that I do. I don't know what happened with that. I think I went back to some of the earlier ones because that did come up a while ago. And at some point, I used to do it standing up against a green screen. And I think I just started just doing this thing. And the only thing I can think about is I just did it one day and then I just kept doing it. And then there was this guy, I forgot his name, but he was his name was Visual Soul on YouTube, and he always had this hand gesture. And I think that must have been in my head when I started doing it. So now it's just part of the shtick. So yeah, and Astifu makes a good point that most people honestly wouldn't want to scrub through a multi-topic video to find the one they were thinking about, right? Especially if they're on a TV or something, it's not as easy. So, but they were doing it. So that's why I want to try this and see what happens. That's a good one, Spuds. I'm rapping. And Brandon Wallace says, lately I haven't watched the wrap-up because I watch all your videos during the week. And I think that's also relevant too, is that a lot of people subscribe because they want the product reviews, not the commentary. And the wrap-up began kind of as a way just to connect with the subscribers, because when I started getting subscribers, I was not really getting a lot of feedback from the regulars. So this was a way to do that. But also we're doing a lot of the live streams now too, so there's been better feedback there. So that's kind of the thing. Jeff Jones actually brings up a good point here that YouTube doesn't offer index points in the videos. And they do, you know, if you go into the video description, it doesn't, so you could click on an actual time code in the description and jump to that part of the video, but there's no software integration for that feature. And then on mobile, it doesn't hyperlink that in the description like it does on the web. So it's a little harder. Interestingly, though, and let me show you this before I wrap up here. If we go, let me go look for something let's see. I'm trying to think of an example I could come up with quickly here. I'm just going to do a Google search. Oh, it's not doing it now. Hang on, let me find another one here. Let's see, Plex review. I just want to see if there's a, because YouTube now, it's not doing it here. Maybe it's on my phone. Let me try it on the phone here. YouTube now Google search is now doing indexing. And so I'm glad I have the video index on the videos, and this has been really interesting. Let me do a quick search here for, what was the one that it's been getting a lot of traffic? Let's see, iPad 10.2. So let's see if it shows up on the mobile search here. Yeah, okay, so here, let me pull up my overhead view real quick. So check this out. So here is a Google search result, not a YouTube result. And because I'm putting those timestamps in the video description, look at that. Isn't that cool? And that's not on YouTube though. Like you would think YouTube would integrate this. This is so useful. And I'm getting so I'm seeing on some of my videos a lot of search traffic coming from Google, because if someone's searching, you know, for, I don't know, the weight of the iPad 7th generation, that's going to show up. It's knowing all this stuff is in there. Isn't this cool? So that's what I would love to see YouTube integrate into their platform, because if you're on the mobile app in YouTube, I would do so much better view-wise with that. All right. Well, I am going to call it an evening, everybody. I appreciate everyone tuning in. And you'll see this video up a little bit later in the week, so you can check that out. If people want to know what Servesh wants to know my background. I'm assuming my professional background or just my background behind me. Let me know. Fleckham wants to know, do I ever correlate comments to views? I think people will click to watch if they have something to comment. Yeah, I think, I look at engagement too. I mean, engagement's important. So, even on the comments, I'm surprised too. Like, I get more comment traffic on the review stuff. So we're just going to experiment with things a little bit and see what kind of works. But we'll go from there. So Servesh wants to know I have a very crazy career background, but the TLDR is that I did a lot of video work in high school and college. So in high school, actually in middle school, I had a cable access show, and if you go back and I've got a clip from on my channel from a while ago. So I did a cable access show for a year or two, just because I could. It was so fun, and I covered video games. And this was right when the Sega Genesis came out, so that was kind of fun. So I kind of got interested in this field back then, and then in high school, we did a school news show for a little bit. That was kind of fun. And then in college, I did some work on the campus television station. And then I graduated college and went to work in my family's business. We were glove and safety equipment importers. And I was doing IT there. So that's where the technology stuff comes in, because I was doing all the IT work. And we were a pretty scrappy operation in the sense that we tried to be as efficient as possible. So I was always trying to find ways to maximize the value of the technology that we were using. So we didn't just buy the most expensive, awesome things. I was like, what can we do with the cheapest thing? And that kind of came into this thing. So yeah, this has kind of been the culmination of all the different things that I've done in life. So that was how I got to this. All right. Yes, so Jeff Jones, if you go to, let me find, and unfortunately this was back in what I called my screaming days. Let me find this real quick. I have it in here. Let's see. Yes, okay, so if you go on my channel and search for, let me pull this up here. Oops, hang on. Oh, you guys are gonna, why did it stop this? All right, let me pull it up on camera 2 here. So this was, here's, I gotta play the music and everything here. Oh, it's not playing. But this was the opening to the show. And this was back in my screaming days, so I did an intro here, and then and I explain what's going on. So then I have like a video game review here of Super Mario Brothers 3. So what happened was a local video store got in Super Mario 3 before it came out in the US. They had the Famicom version with an adapter. So I captured game footage. I did a mini review of the game and put it on my show. And then I had an interview with a guy it was the manager of my local game store that was in the town next over from me. So there was a game store called the Ultimate Game Club. And this guy was the manager there. He's still around town. I got to try to look him up because I don't know if he knows this video still exists. But we were discussing, this was from 1990, like early 1990. So we're discussing all of the video games coming out for the Sega, like the Sega Genesis had just come out, the TurboGrafx had just come out, the Game Boy had just come out, the Game Gear was coming. So it was kind of a fun thing. But I was doing this, and the problem was that there was a couple of challenges with, yes, I was an AV nerd, Spuds, that is definitely it. The challenge with that show was that my mom had to drive me to the station to do anything, because back then you didn't have the equipment at home to do this. I had a camcorder so I could capture footage, but I couldn't edit anything. There was no way to edit at home. So I had to get driven into the studio, and you had to fill a half hour. So it was really hard to get enough content, and I had to be driven to the content, record the content, get driven to the TV station, edit the content. It wasn't doable. Had I stuck with it, I would have been like a top gaming creator at this point, but so now I got started a lot later. But I'm kind of doing the same thing just as an adult. It's really fun. Let's see. Ben Bamboo wants to know if there's a screen recorder for the smart TV so you can capture everything that is displayed on screen, including live TV, on-demand shows. The answer to that is no, unless your TV has an output. But look on my channel. I did a review of a service. I forgot the name of it already, but search for like DVR on my channel, because there is an app that wasn't that expensive that runs on your computer and will capture streaming content, and they say it's legal, so check it out. Yes, Jeff Jones, I had a pretty cool camcorder too. I think I had a Hitachi and it had the flying erase head. Actually, what it did have, that Hitachi had the ability to do audio dubbing, so you could record video and then replace the audio track. So that was neat. You could do a voiceover, but it was just so hard to edit because you lacked the frame level precision. So I would try to edit by having the camcorder plugged into a VCR. And I would play content back on the camcorder, have to hit record on the VCR. It just never worked right. So the equipment they had at the TV station was full-on editing equipment. So you could go frame by frame and then start, the next clip right on the frame. So it was linear editing, but it was doable. And they had a video so there was two departments there. This was Comcast Cable. Back then it was Store Cable, who got acquired by Comcast, but they had a advertising department in the next room over. And I think they had a video toaster there back in the early 90s. It was cool to see how that thing worked, which was really neat, which became later the TriCaster. So, all right. See, you're all getting me going again here. I'm going to go all night on this stuff. So we'll come back. We should do a stream just looking at some of that old stuff. That might be kind of fun. All right, so I am going to call it a night, and I will be back again soon. Set your notification bell because when I do my random live streams, you will know when I do them. And then as we schedule more of these Amazon things, I will let you know about that too. So I'm going to head out for now. Thank you all for tuning in. Wrap-ups tomorrow, a shorter one. We're going to experiment with some ways to build the viewership on that. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I also want to thank Rick Vestudo and Astifu for their Super Chat contributions. And look for the wrap-up tomorrow night, starting around 7 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good evening. And we will be back.